All right, we are going to talk about writing expressions. Hopefully this will be a little bit of a review for some of you that have been working on ALEX. Make sure you have your notes in front of you. So let's just talk about first what is a variable. If you think about a variable, this is something that you all have done since you were in elementary school and kindergarten, but it was just represented in different ways. So if you look at this, 5 plus what gives me 8, that would be 3, and 7 minus what would give me 2. That's just how you started your algebraic thinking when you were young. And now we're just going to use a variable. And a variable is simply a letter, a symbol, usually a letter that represents an unknown quantity. So if you look at this, y plus 8, 5 minus y, b plus 7 minus c. All of these are variables. So that means that either I'm going to have to give you the value for a y and you would plug it in, or you would have to solve for the variable. And that's what we're going to be working on this unit. Okay, so go ahead and write that down, and you can write down these examples. If you need to stop the video at any point, just go ahead. All right. All right, so when we're looking at multiplication, this is what's really, really important, okay? You need to know that we represent multiplication in different ways. We can use the dot, which we've done, okay? So this means 5 times y, or we can simply have nothing at all. So if you look at this 5y, this means 5 times y, okay? If I tell you that y equals 4, this doesn't mean 54. It means 5 times 4, okay? And then sometimes you can use the parentheses. So these are all ways of showing multiplication. So anytime you have a variable next to a number without any operation signs, that means you should multiply. Okay? All right, let's go to the next part. We have talked about a numeric expression. We say a numeric expression contains numbers and operation signs like 7 plus 3, 23 minus 5, 16 times 3. Those are numeric expressions. We talked about how the number numeric sounds like a number. Okay, so it has numbers in it. But now we're moving on to algebraic expressions. Okay. So algebraic expressions is a mathematical phrase that contains numbers, variables, and operation signs. All of those. The difference with an expression, it does not have an equal sign. So these are some examples of expressions. Okay, you notice there's no equal signs, but there is numbers, operation signs, and variables. Another thing is equations, and we're going to talk about equations a little bit later, but equations is a mathematical sentence that contains numbers, variables, operation signs, and an equal sign. So an equation has an equal sign. So in equation, you kind of almost see that word equal. Okay? So what's going to happen if I have an expression? Then I would have to give you the value of the variable. Like for here, I would have to tell you that p equals 3. And then you would simply plug that in, 6 plus 3, and you could tell me that the answer is 9. Okay? But down here with an equation, since I told you what it's equal, you should be able to solve it. So you would say 5 plus what would give me 8? Well, that would have to be 3. Okay? All right, so make sure you have all of that written down, and now let's kind of practice writing some expressions. One of the things you need to know is you need to know some clue words to look for. Okay, so if you look at all of these words here, they're going to kind of clue you into either you're adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. I wanted to save some time here, so I went ahead and put them all in each category. So take just a little bit of time to read through those and see if you agree that those would be words that would help to clue you in. Oh, I'm adding. Oh, if it says doubled, that means I'm multiplying. Okay, so look through them. If you want, you can write these down, but I think most of you probably will remember these. Okay, so now let's talk about actually writing some. All right, so like I said, we're going to be looking for clue words here. Okay, so the sum of 31 and a number n. So we're looking for that word sum. So we know that sum means to add. So the sum of 31 and n would just be 31 plus n. Okay. One of the ones that you have to really, really make sure that you understand is the word less than. Less than is you're actually going to write it kind of backwards than what it says. So if I say 5 less than x, you're tempted to kind of keep it in that same order and put 5 minus x. But if you think about what that word means, or what it says, 5 less than x, what that implies is that you have an x amount of things and you're taking away 5 from it. So less than is the only one where really the order is kind of backwards than how it's written. Okay, so please be really careful with the word less than. Just remember that it is backwards. Okay. All right, so let's do a little practice now. All right, so rewrite each expression. So I'm going to go through each of these, but if you want to just go through and see if you have them first, and then come back and check your answers, you can do that too. So 5 times the number p. Well, I'm looking for that word right there. So that's just 5 times p. Remember, I can write it that way. I can write it like that, or I can write it like that. Do you see why it's important to not do this? Because now someone might think that that is an exponent. Okay, so we're not going to use x as a multiplication sign anymore. Okay. All right, the product of 8 and z. So product means to multiply, so I would kind of the same thing up here. 8z, 8 times z, and 8z. This is the one that I will do the most. Okay, just the number and the variable. This is called the coefficient. We'll talk about that later, but the number in front is called the coefficient. A number 15 divided by p, so that's just 15, so obviously it's telling you right away. 15 divided by p. You also need to remember that you can write division that looks like a fraction. Okay, so this is a division sign as well. All right, 15 less than c. Ooh, I told you to be careful about that. 15 less than c. That actually means I'm starting with c, and I take away 15. Okay. 15 less than r, same thing. I have an r amount of things, and I'm taking away 15. All right, this is a little tricky one. It says 7 times the sum of 6 and p. Uh-oh, I see 2 clues here. So I'm saying 7 times something. So if I look at this, I've got 2 different things I'm working with here. 7 times and then whatever this is. So I should have 2 different operation signs here. So let's start with this one. The sum of 6 and p, that means 6 times p. And then I'm going to multiply it by 7. So I can do this. Or I could do 6p times 7. Any of those will work. Okay? All right. So you've got some right here. I want you to pause the video, and I want you to write them down and see what you get. Okay? Pause the video. And then come back with your answer. All right. Check your answers. One of the things I want to point out to you, again, remember, if we have a variable right next to a number and there's no operation sign, you should multiply. Same thing here. If I have 2 right next to this parentheses and there's no operation sign, that means I'm multiplying 2 by whatever is on the inside. Okay? All right, so look through your answers. Here's another one down here. If I have 35 divided by this, remember, I can write it as a fraction. So I have, 35. Other way around, though. 35 divided by the sum of x and 5. Okay? All right? All right. So the other thing, I don't have these on your notes, just you should be able to write a word expression for these. So if I give them to you, you should also be able to write them so you know that that means to multiply. So you could say 12 times w, the product of 12 and w. This one right here, you know that's division. So you could say 16 divided by r. You could say down here, you know you need to use an addition word. So you're just going to use those clue words, okay? All right, last part. All right, here's your exit slip. So I want you to solve these problems, and that's what I'm going to look for tomorrow. All right, have a great day, and if you have any questions on these, just let me know.